So this week we're talking about challenges that everybody is facing in their supply chain, challenges of course as a result of the coronavirus. We've been keeping in touch with our consulting clients and lots of people around the world. We've got a few tips to share, and that's what we'll be talking about this week. So I know we're all getting a little bit fed up with reading about coronavirus, but heck, we've got to keep on top of this. And if we're managing supply chains, even more so. I'm not sure what it's like in your part of the world, but here in Australia, we're probably just at the bottom of that exponential curve. Supermarkets are beginning a huge run. I was talking to someone in supermarket supply chains the other day, and they were basically saying it's like Christmas Eve, which is their busiest day of the year here. It's like Christmas Eve every day for the last 3 weeks. Crazy. Look, it's partly understandable. People are a little bit worried. They're not sure if they're going to get out to the supermarkets. They're stocking up on food. It's kind of understandable. I know we were, complaining about everybody and calling it panic buying, but, you can kind of appreciate what they're trying to do. But hopefully the supermarkets are going to stay open. Now, what I'd like to talk about is some things that you really ought to be thinking about in your supply chain right now. You're probably firefighting, just trying to keep things going. But we've got a webinar coming up in about a week's time. I'll put a link to that below. We're going to be talking about some of the things that people can be doing, some of the things that we're helping our clients with. So you're probably watching this on the Supply Chain Secrets channel. But be aware that my main business is Logistics Bureau Management Consulting Company. So we're kind of right in the thick of this and helping a lot of companies through at the moment. So I might just put up a very simple chart behind me there and run through some of the things that we're helping clients with at the moment and some of the things that we're developing further to help them, because it's getting a little bit harder now to work with clients. A lot of sites are locked down. They don't want sort of non-staff there. So we're adapting all of our services so that we can assist people remotely. And we'll be talking all about that in the webinar that's coming up in about 7 or 8 days. Okay, so some of the things that we can be doing. Sourcing. Obviously, sourcing has been a major issue, particularly for companies sourcing product out of China. That is starting to pick up. More product is now coming out of Chinese ports. But I think one of the things that people have really realized is that you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You do need to have multiple sources of supply. And certainly some of our clients have found that they thought they had multiple sources of supply, but when they went to their secondary and tertiary suppliers, they found they were also in China. So I think there's a big lesson for us there on sourcing to make sure that we do diversify and maybe, if possible, also have some local sourcing. Inventory management, you would not want to be an inventory manager at the moment. I know particularly supermarkets are really struggling, crazy demand. If you've ever done the beer game and you get to experience that whiplash effect, that simulation of supply chains, it's happening every day virtually now. So that's a particularly difficult thing, and we've come up with a few ideas to actually help people manage inventory in this really tough time. We've got some predictive tools that I hope might be able to share on the webinar next week, so you can see, these things have run out already, but maybe these ones are going to be the next ones to run out. So you do need to start thinking about things like rationing to certain customers. Some companies, on the other hand, of course, have just had their sales drop through the floor. And I really feel sorry for you guys. So we've got sort of both ends of the spectrum here, and inventory management is just becoming so much harder. So you need to start thinking about how you're going to ration where you've got huge demand, how you're going to ration to certain customers. You may have to start picking which customers you want to support, and that's getting harder and harder, obviously, as we go along. I thought it was really interesting here in Australia the last couple of weeks with home deliveries. I have to say, you may have seen my LinkedIn post where I actually tested 5 different companies on their home delivery service about 2 weeks ago. They were already struggling, to be honest, 2 weeks ago, and now our major supermarkets. When I was putting some online orders on a couple of weeks back, it was between 4 and 8 days delivery time. Now our major supermarkets have actually closed home deliveries, except for people in need and in remote areas and so on. Quite understandable. The whole thing just got overloaded. But of course, the opportunity is if you're kind of a walk-in retail type organisation, or particularly food service businesses, the opportunity now, of course, is to do your own home delivery. You've got to try and switch that on because foot traffic is just non-existent. One of the things that we've been working with some of our consulting clients on, and I would urge you to think about this, is collaborative distribution. So, for example, I noticed someone posting on LinkedIn today, why don't some of the supermarkets use Uber to do home deliveries? Uber apparently is, kind of falling over with lack of customers. I'm sure we'll see that type of thing emerge where, food deliveries can take place using these sorts of rideshare type services. So if you're not traditionally into home delivery, maybe now is the time that you've really got to try and have a go at that. Collaborative distribution, so who else is going to your customers? That's always a thing to look at, and we're certainly looking at that with some of our consulting clients at the moment. So not necessarily selling the same products, but going to the same customers. How can we actually utilize each other's warehouses and transport and so on to actually maintain service to our customer base? So maybe there is, for example, someone doing home deliveries. You don't traditionally do home deliveries. Could you partner with them to actually start doing that? One of the things that, of course, that's going to bite us, and depending on what part of the world you're in, is going to be the lag effect. So we've got this huge peak in demand now. For certain products and services, that demand is just going to fall off a cliff probably in a few months' time. So here in Australia, as in elsewhere in the world, don't ask me why, but we've had a run on toilet paper. I can understand the run on tin goods. People are kind of worried that they won't be able to get out of their homes and they're trying to stock up. But, I think everybody in Australia will very soon have 2 months' supply in their larders. So, all of these sort of tin goods companies, their demand's going to drop right off as we all just eat through what we've got. So do be prepared for that lag effect. If you're not already forecasting for that, do look forward and see how that's going. So is your DRP process, distribution resource planning process, up for that? If you haven't already, got a control tower team in place, that's what a lot of our clients are doing. So business as usual is trying to tick along, but then they put together a small team to sort of do crisis management and stay right across the communication with suppliers and customers and visibility of supply chain activities. If you haven't already done that, that's probably something that you need to do. One of our specialists in ocean freight was actually saying now is a good time to lock in freight rates with ocean carriers, because apparently that's going to kind of whiplash back and rates are going to go through the roof. I'm sure you're all going through your risk modelling and things like that as well. So let me I'll flash this diagram up on the screen behind you, or at least bits of it, but this is what we're going to be running through in our webinar in about a week's time. So we're going to look at how to cope with the overseas supply, what are some of the opportunities or challenges with shipping lines, how to balance the sort of local supply with overseas supply. We're going to have a look at inbound freight, because if you look at the title of this, what is it saying? Maintain sales and service and minimize your cost to make sure that your business survives. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about on that webinar is going to be about that. How do you maintain service to customers but minimizing costs, because you're probably really hurting with expediting and so on. So we're going to have a look at inbound freight and some of the things you can do there. Some of the things in distribution centres, you may be running out of space. Your flows through the distribution centre might be a real problem. Delivery freight, again, options there that maybe you can be talking to carriers about, and how to manage your customers' expectations as well. So it's a really challenging time. I would love to hear your feedback, your comments down below, because by all means, share tips that you're using in your businesses. We can incorporate that into the webinar in a week or so time, and we can try and share, across the industry some tips for better coping through this issue. So thank you for watching the channel. I was kind of a little bit reluctant to get into sort of COVID-19 type topics, because it's just awash everywhere, but I think it would be remiss of us if we don't. So as I say, we'll have a webinar coming up. If you haven't been onto our blog, logisticsbureau.com/blog, jump on there. We've got loads of coronavirus sort of related articles, and also on my LinkedIn profile as well. So jump on there and say hi. Of course, if you're new to this channel, do hit the subscribe button because we have videos coming out every week, generally on a Wednesday. So if you're in supply chain management, you must be doing an awesome job. Keep it up, and we'll all get through this in the next few months. Thanks for watching.